Life in Japan, beautiful women, $600 budget, and the SX rules no one talks about. This isn't what you think. They say Japan is the land of discipline, respect, and cutting-edge technology. And that's true. But no one really talks about what it's like to live there on a tight budget, surrounded by some of the most beautiful women you've ever seen, all while trying to figure out a confusing set of social and romantic rules that nobody will actually explain to you. That's the Japan we're talking about today. Let me ask you something. Could you survive in one of the world's most expensive countries on just $600 a month? Now imagine doing that while trying to date women who are polite on the surface, but operate under silent expectations that could destroy a relationship before it even begins. And here's the twist. Japan has one of the biggest adult industries in the world, yet millions of young people here haven't even had their first kiss. Sounds strange? That's because it is. And yet, people from all over the world move here, fall in love with the lifestyle and never leave, or they crash and burn within months. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what life in Japan is really like, the side that most tourists never see, and the reality that most influencers are too scared to talk about. From budget living, to dating culture, to rules around intimacy that no one ever says out loud. This is Japan, raw and unfiltered. Let's see if you're ready. Japan. Beyond the postcards, let's get real. When most people think about Japan, they imagine cherry blossoms, sushi, Mount Fuji, clean streets, and people bowing politely. And yes, those things are real. They exist. But that's only one part of the picture. That's the version of Japan you see in travel brochures and Instagram posts. It's beautiful, calm, and almost magical. But living in Japan, really living here, shows you something completely different. Japan is like a beautifully wrapped gift. From the outside, everything looks perfect. People are kind, things are organized, and life seems peaceful. But once you open that gift and start living inside it, you notice that the real world here has its own set of challenges. It's not bad. It's just different and often hard to understand if you're not prepared. For example, the politeness here is amazing, but it also hides people's real feelings. You'll rarely hear someone say no directly. They'll smile, nod, and say things like maybe or let me think, when they actually mean not at all. At first, it feels nice because everyone is so respectful, but after a while, it can feel confusing. You never really know what someone is thinking. Even friendships and dating are tricky. Just because someone is friendly doesn't mean they want to be close to you. And just because someone agrees to meet you for coffee doesn't mean they're interested in more. There are many silent rules in social life here, and nobody tells you what they are. You have to learn through experience and often through mistakes. Work culture is another example. From the outside, people in Japan seem hardworking and loyal. That's true, but many also feel pressure to stay at work long hours, even when they've finished their tasks. It is not always about productivity. It is about showing you are part of the team, even if it costs your personal time or health. Now, let's talk about loneliness. This one surprises many people. Japan is full of people. Trains are crowded, cities are packed, and cafes are always busy. But even in the middle of a crowd, you can feel incredibly alone. Many people live quietly, keep to themselves, and don't start conversations with strangers. It's not because they're unfriendly. It's just the way society works. Everyone respects each other's space, but sometimes that space turns into emotional distance. And while Japan is one of the safest countries in the world, there are still issues. Mental health is one of them. People are often under pressure to appear strong and perfect. Talking openly about feelings, sadness, or stress isn't common, and going to therapy can still carry a social stigma. So, even though everything looks peaceful, some people are quietly struggling behind the scenes. So, yes, Japan is clean, efficient, and often feels like a dream come true. But under that smooth surface, there's a very complex reality. It's not something you'll notice during a one-week vacation, but live here for a few months and you'll start to see the hidden layers. This isn't meant to scare you, it's just the truth. And knowing the truth helps you enjoy Japan more, not less. Because once you understand how things really work, you start to appreciate the little things. The silent kindness, the strong work ethic, the attention to detail, and the quiet ways people show care. So, if you're thinking, I know Japan, because you watched a few travel vlogs, think again. There's a whole other side that no one tells you about until you live it yourself. And trust me, that side is where the real stories begin. The beauty standard. Are Japanese women really that beautiful? Let's talk about something that grabs everyone's attention. The beauty of Japanese women. You've probably heard people say Japanese women are elegant, stylish, and naturally beautiful. And in many ways, that's true. But there's more to it than just looks. Beauty in Japan is not only about appearance, it's about behavior, manners, and the quiet way someone carries themselves. It's a full package, and it's taken very seriously. Japan has one of the largest beauty markets in the world. In fact, the country spends over $10 billion every year on skincare and beauty products. That's not a small number. Walk into any drugstore or department store and you'll see rows and rows of products. Face masks, toners, sunscreens, serums, whitening creams, and more. It's like a beauty lab on every corner. Looking presentable here isn't just a choice, it's expected. But beauty in Japan isn't just about makeup or skin. It's also about behavior. There's a cultural idea that a beautiful woman should not only look good, but act in a soft, respectful, and graceful way. Many women speak in gentle voices, bow politely, and avoid loud or aggressive behavior. It's part of a social code that values modesty and calmness. Now you might be thinking, wow, that sounds perfect. Polite, well-groomed, and respectful. What's not to love? But here's where things get interesting. Just because someone looks beautiful and acts kindly doesn't mean they're looking for love, or that they want to date you, especially if you're a foreigner who doesn't understand the unspoken rules. Dating in Japan can be very different from what you're used to. You might meet someone at a cafe, have a great chat, exchange messages, even go on a few dates. Everything feels great. You think it's going somewhere, and then, suddenly, she disappears. No goodbye, no explanation, no closure, just silence. Yes, ghosting is very common in Japan, and it's not always meant to be rude. In many cases, it's just seen as the easiest and most polite way to end things without causing discomfort. People here often avoid direct confrontation, even in relationships. Instead of saying, "I'm not interested," they might just stop replying. That way, they avoid an awkward conversation, but you're left confused and frustrated. I once heard a story about a guy who met a girl at a language exchange event. They talked for hours, laughed a lot, and started texting every day. After a few fun meetups, she stopped replying completely. He waited days, then weeks. He even messaged again just to make sure she was okay. Nothing. It was like she vanished into thin air. When he told a Japanese friend about it, the friend just nodded and said, "Ah, maybe she didn't want to hurt your feelings." This happens a lot, and if you don't know how things work here, it can really hurt. You start questioning yourself. Did you say something wrong? Were you too forward, too casual, or just foreign? See, in Japan, communication is subtle. People expect you to read the air, which means picking up on silent clues. A long pause, a polite smile, or a delayed reply might actually mean, "This isn't working." But if you're not used to that kind of indirect message, you'll miss it. Also, it's important to understand how foreign men are viewed here. On one hand, you might seem exciting or exotic. Some women are genuinely curious about dating someone from a different culture. On the other hand, you can also be seen as risky, too loud, too unpredictable, or just not someone who fits into Japanese life. There's a stereotype that foreign men are only here for fun and not serious relationships. And while that's not always true, the label can hurt your chances if you don't act respectfully. That's why being successful in dating here takes more than just charm. It takes patience, awareness, and a lot of quiet listening. You can't just rely on jokes or confidence. You have to notice the small things: how she responds, how often she texts, and what she says without saying it. Fashion also plays a big role in beauty and dating. Japanese women often dress with great attention to detail. Their outfits are carefully chosen, clean, stylish, and never too flashy. Many women carry themselves with grace, which can be very attractive. But again, that doesn't mean they're looking for a boyfriend. Some are just being polite. Others are used to attention but don't want anything more. There's also the pressure many women face to stay within certain cultural limits. Some feel they have to act a certain way, dress a certain way, or avoid relationships that aren't approved by family or work culture. In that sense, they can be both strong and restricted at the same time, empowered in how they present themselves, but boxed in by what society expects. So, are Japanese women really that beautiful? Yes, but beauty here isn't simple. It's layered, shaped by culture, behavior, and tradition. And when it comes to dating, beauty alone doesn't guarantee anything. You could have a perfect first date, sweet conversation, polite laughter, even a friendly hug goodbye. But if you miss the cultural signs, if you push too fast, or if you don't understand the hidden rules, you could go from charming to unwanted very quickly. That's why so many foreigners end up feeling confused, even heartbroken. They expected romance but got silence. They expected a clear yes or no, but got a smile and a fade out. And while it hurts, it's also a lesson. Japan will never tell you things straight. You have to feel your way through it. So next time someone asks, "Are Japanese women really that beautiful?" Maybe the better question is, do you understand what beauty means in Japan? And are you ready for the silence that sometimes comes with it? The dating game. Why foreigners get confused and crushed dating in Japan sounds exciting at first. New culture, new people, and a chance to connect with someone very different from you. But ask anyone who's actually tried dating in Japan as a foreigner, and you'll hear a common answer. It's confusing. I don't know what went wrong. The truth is, dating here is like walking into a game where no one explains the rules, and if you play it wrong, you lose before you even realize it. Let's start with something simple. Texting. In most countries, texting is casual. You say what you feel, maybe even flirt a little. But in Japan, messaging is much more careful and quiet. People use an app called Line, which is the main way of texting here. It's not just another app, it's how people build relationships. But it comes with silent expectations. For example, when someone replies with short answers or takes hours to respond, it might not mean they're bored or angry. It could mean they're thinking carefully or just don't want to seem too eager. At the same time, if you reply too quickly or say too much, they might feel uncomfortable. Japanese communication style is subtle, and being too direct is seen as strange or even rude. Now imagine you're a foreigner who just arrived. You meet someone nice. You exchange line IDs. You send a friendly message. She replies with an emoji and a short sentence. Then you reply with a long paragraph, thinking you're being kind and open. Suddenly, she stops replying. You're confused. What happened? This happens a lot. Foreigners are often open and expressive. We like to say what we think. But in Japan, people are taught to be careful with words. Emotions are often hidden. So when someone says, "I'm a little tired today," it might actually mean, "I don't want to meet again." But they'll never say that directly. If you miss that small hint, you'll keep texting, and they'll quietly disappear. That's where the pain starts. You think you're building something real, texting every day, sharing personal stories, even going out for dinner or coffee. Then one day, silence. No goodbye, no explanation, nothing. You start to wonder, did I say something wrong? Was I moving too fast? Did she even like me? Let's talk about a real story. There was a guy named Alex who moved to Osaka for work. He met a girl at a language exchange meetup. She was sweet, funny, and curious about Western culture. They talked for hours. They started texting. A few days later, they went out for ramen. She laughed at his jokes, complimented his Japanese, and even took photos together. After a few dates, Alex thought things were going great. Then one day, she stopped replying. Completely. No warning. No reason. Alex waited, messaged again. Still nothing. He felt hurt and confused. When he told his Japanese coworker about it, the response was simple. Maybe she didn't want to disappoint you, so she disappeared instead. This is very common. In Japanese culture, avoiding direct rejection is seen as polite. People don't like to make others feel bad. But for foreigners, this feels worse. You're left hanging, without any closure. Now, let's add another layer. Being a foreign man in Japan. On one side, some Japanese women are curious about foreigners. They might find you interesting, different, or exciting. This is where the idea of fetish comes in, where someone is attracted to you just because you are not Japanese. They might like your looks, your accent, or your different way of talking, but they may not see you as someone for a serious relationship. On the other side, some women are scared to date foreigners. They think you won't understand their culture, or that you're only here for short-term fun, or that you'll be too emotional, loud, or direct. This is the fear side of the foreign man image. So you're stuck in the middle. Sometimes wanted, sometimes avoided. Sometimes people will show interest, but only as a fun experience, not as a real connection. And you won't always know which it is until it's too late. Another thing to understand is the pressure many Japanese people feel to follow social rules. Family, work, and even friends can influence who they date. Some people are scared to introduce a foreign partner to their family because it feels like a big step. Others think a cross-cultural relationship will be too much work. So even if feelings are real, fear can stop things before they start. Dating here often feels like a quiet test. You're being watched, not in a bad way, but in a careful one. People notice how you talk, how you act, and how well you understand small things. Do you know when to bow? Do you take off your shoes at the door? Do you talk too much in public? Do you ask too many personal questions? These may seem like small things, but they matter a lot. Some foreigners succeed in dating here. They build deep, strong relationships. But it takes time, patience, and learning. You can't rush it. You have to learn to listen, not just to words, but to silence. So, why do so many foreigners get confused and crushed in Japan's dating world? Because we come in expecting direct answers, open emotions, and fast connections. But Japan works on silence, signals, and slow steps. Dating here isn't easy, but it can be meaningful. If you understand the culture behind the smile, if you can wait, listen, and adapt, you might build something real. But if you try to move too fast or force things, you might end up like Alex, alone, confused, and left on red forever. In the end, dating in Japan isn't about being the most attractive, the funniest, or the richest. It's about learning the rhythm of a culture where love moves quietly. If you can dance to that rhythm, you might just find something special. But first, you'll need to learn how to hear the music. The budget test. Living on $600 in a first-world country living in Japan sounds expensive. And yes, if you live like a tourist or eat out every day, it can be. But the truth is, it's possible to live in Japan on just $600 a month. It's not easy, and you'll have to make smart choices, but many people do it. Some even enjoy it. Let's talk about how it actually works. The biggest expense anywhere is usually rent. In Japan, apartments in big cities like Tokyo or Osaka can be very expensive. But if you're okay with living in a guest house, you can save a lot. Guest house is like a shared home. You get your own small room, and you share the kitchen, bathroom, and sometimes the living area with others. These places can cost as low as $250 to $300 a month, including utilities like electricity and water. If you want to go even cheaper or try something different, there are capsule rooms. These are tiny sleeping pods, usually just big enough for a bed. They're clean, safe, and surprisingly comfortable. It might sound weird at first, but many foreigners actually enjoy it, especially if they're only using it to sleep. You'll also find public bathhouses called sento, where you can take a hot bath and relax for just a few dollars. It's a common thing in Japan, and locals use it too. Now let's talk about food. This is where Japan surprises everyone. You can actually eat very well for cheap. 7-Eleven, Family Mart, and Lawson aren't just convenience stores here. They're food lifesavers. You can get a full bento box, a meal with rice, meat, and veggies, for around $3 to $5. Want something lighter? Onigiri, rice balls with filling, cost just $1 each and can be found everywhere. You can also cook at home, especially if you're staying in a guest house with a shared kitchen. Buy basics like rice, eggs, tofu, and noodles from a local supermarket or a 100-yen store, like a dollar store. These shops sell food, dishes, cleaning items, and even clothes for just 100 yen, about 70 cents. With a little planning, you can easily keep your monthly food costs under $150. Let's move on to transportation. Japan's train system is amazing. Clean, fast, and always on time. But it's not cheap. A few trips a day can quickly add up to $5 to $10 daily. That's not great for a small budget. The smart choice: buy a bicycle or walk more. Japan is one of the safest places to bike. Many people, including office workers and students, cycle to work or school every day. You can find a second-hand bike for as low as $50. And once you have it, transportation is free. Also, try to avoid trains during rush hours if you're living on a budget. They're crowded, stressful, and expensive if you're constantly switching lines. Plan your day in a way that you walk, bike, or use short-distance train rides only when needed. Here's a quick example of what a monthly $600 budget might look like in Japan. Rent, guest house or capsule, $280. Food, groceries and convenience store meals, $150 transportation, mostly biking or walking, $0 train fare, occasional, $30 phone and internet, cheap plan, $20 extras, toiletries, snacks, laundry, $50 emergency or savings buffer, $70 total, $600. Yes, it's tight. You won't be going to fancy restaurants or shopping every weekend. But it works, especially if you value simplicity and experience over luxury. Now, let's talk about what it feels like. At first, it might seem hard. The room is small, the bed might be thin, and there's not much space for personal stuff. But slowly, you start to feel free. There's no stress about rent. You're eating well, walking more, and maybe even saving a little. Many people say that Japan teaches them to live with less and still be happy. You stop buying unnecessary things. You enjoy a quiet walk. You drink tea at home instead of spending $5 at a cafe. It sounds boring, but it's actually peaceful. And that peace is something many people miss when they return home. Of course, there are hard days. Maybe your guesthouse roommate snores. Maybe you get tired of rice balls. Maybe you just wish you had more space or a private kitchen. But those moments pass. You learn to laugh at the small struggles and enjoy the small wins, like finding a 50-yen discount on dinner or getting a free umbrella on a rainy day. Living on $600 in a first-world country like Japan is not about suffering. It's about adjusting. It's about learning how much you really need and realizing that most of the time, it's less than you thought. So, if you're thinking it, oh, impossible to live in Japan on such a small budget, think again. Many people are doing it right now. It's not always easy, but it's honest, it's real, and sometimes it's even fun. The best part? When you live simply, you start to notice the beauty of small things. A friendly smile at the convenience store, the sound of a train passing at night, or the quiet joy of eating warm noodles on a cold evening. That is the real richness of life in Japan, and you don't need a big wallet to feel it. Minimalism or poverty. The line between Zen and struggle. Minimalism is a word we hear a lot these days. For many people, it means clean spaces, simple living, and having only what you need. In Japan, this idea is often connected with peace, balance, and the traditional Zen lifestyle. But if you live in Japan on a tight budget, minimalism isn't always a choice. Sometimes it's just the only way to survive. Let's be honest. Many apartments in Japan are very small. In big cities like Tokyo or Osaka, it's normal to find people living in rooms the size of a walk-in closet in America. Some apartments are as small as 9 square meters, just enough space for a bed, a tiny table, and maybe a small fridge. That's it. The bathroom might be so small that the toilet, sink, and shower are all in one corner. You turn one way to brush your teeth, another way to shower. It takes time to get used to. Now, this isn't always seen as a bad thing. In fact, a lot of Japanese people are proud of keeping their homes simple and tidy. The idea is that less clutter means less stress. When your space is clear, your mind feels clearer too. It's a way of life that has deep roots in Japanese culture. But for many people, especially foreigners moving here with a low budget, minimalism feels more like a necessity than a lifestyle choice. You don't own fewer things because you're trying to be mindful. You own fewer things because there's nowhere to put them. You don't have a couch because it simply won't fit. You sleep on a floor mattress because there's no room for a regular bed. Take the example of Ryan, a foreigner who moved to Tokyo from Canada. Back home, he had a big apartment, a car, a TV, and lots of stuff. When he moved to Japan, he rented a small one-room apartment. At first, he felt trapped. There was no closet, just a rail to hang clothes. No kitchen table, just a foldable tray. His suitcase took up half the floor space. He felt frustrated, even a little sad. But over time, something changed. He started getting rid of things. 1 pair of shoes instead of 5. A few favorite shirts instead of a packed wardrobe. No extra furniture, no mess. He learned to live with just the basics. And surprisingly, it made him feel lighter. He said, "I stopped worrying about what I didn't have. I started paying more attention to what I actually used." This shift doesn't happen overnight. At first, living in such a small space can feel like a struggle. You bump into things. You can't stretch your arms without hitting a wall. Hosting a friend feels impossible. But if you accept it and adapt, you might find a kind of peace that's hard to explain. Minimalism in Japan isn't just about design. It's about making the most of what you have. Multi-use furniture is common. Beds with drawers, foldable desks, shelves built into walls. People hang their laundry on balconies to save space. Even meals are simple. 1 bowl of rice, a small dish of vegetables, and a cup of tea. Nothing wasted, nothing extra. But it's also fair to say that for some people, this lifestyle doesn't feel freeing. It can feel lonely. It can feel like giving up comfort. If you're used to big living rooms, soft sofas, and open kitchens, Japan's small homes can feel cold. Some foreigners get tired of the limits. They miss space, they miss privacy, they miss being able to stretch out without touching both walls. So, is it minimalism or is it poverty? The answer depends on how you look at it. For some, it's a smart, clean way to live. For others, it's a sign that life in Japan is expensive and space is hard to afford. Both are true. The emotional side of minimalism is powerful. When you have less, you often feel more. More appreciation for small things. More freedom from stuff. More focus on experiences instead of belongings. But that only works if you choose it. When you're forced to live small because you can't afford anything else, it can feel more like struggle than freedom. In the end, living with less in Japan teaches you something important. You don't need much to be okay. A warm meal, a quiet room, a good walk outside, that can be enough. But it also reminds you how much we're used to space and comfort. and how hard it is to let that go. So, whether you call it Zen or just getting by, one thing is clear. Life in Japan will change the way you think about space, stuff, and what you really need to be happy. The hidden Essex culture. It's everywhere and nowhere. When people hear about Japan, they often think of clean streets, quiet people, and strong traditions. But there's another side of Japan that surprises many. Its adult industry. You'll find manga shops filled with adult comics, entire buildings dedicated to love hotels, and huge stores with floors of adult products right in the middle of busy cities. This part of Japan is open, bold, and in your face, but here's the strange part. Even with all this, many young people in Japan are not having sex at all. It's true. Studies show that around 40% of Japanese adults under 35 have never had sex, and many of them are not even interested in starting relationships. This might sound shocking, especially when Japan has one of the biggest adult entertainment markets in the world. The country earns billions of dollars every year from adult videos, magazines, themed cafes, and more. So how can both things be true at the same time? The answer lies in Japan's deep social rules and pressures. On the outside, adult content is everywhere. It's not hidden. You can walk into a bookstore, and there will be entire sections of erotic manga. Some shops have multiple floors for different age groups and preferences. In some areas, you'll find vending machines selling adult products. There are streets with nothing but love hotels, short-stay places designed for couples to have private time. But just because something is easy to find doesn't mean people are comfortable with it. In Japan, people are taught from a young age to keep emotions and personal topics private. Talking openly about sex, relationships, or desire is often seen as embarrassing. Even in schools, sex education is very basic. People don't grow up talking about feelings or romantic problems, especially not with their parents or teachers. So, even though adult content is available, real conversations about love or sex rarely happen. This creates a strange situation. On one hand, Japan has made adult content a huge business. On the other hand, many people feel alone, shy, or scared when it comes to real intimacy. It's like living in a country where the topic is everywhere but still completely silent. Many people blame work pressure for this. Japanese life is often centered around jobs. People work long hours, even late into the night. They're tired, they go home, eat, and sleep. There's not much time or energy left for dating. Some people even avoid relationships completely because they feel it will take too much effort. They'd rather play video games, read manga, or scroll their phones than go out on a date. And because everyone's doing the same, it starts to feel normal. There's also a fear of rejection and failure. In a society that values harmony and perfection, people don't want to make mistakes, especially in relationships. They don't want to be embarrassed or judged. So many just don't try. They stay quiet. They stay alone. Now, let's talk about the love hotel areas. These places are strange and interesting at the same time. In big cities like Tokyo, there are whole streets full of small hotels with colorful signs and strange names. Some are fancy, with big rooms and fancy lights. Others are very basic. People don't stay the night here. They come for an hour or two, then leave. There's no check-in at the counter. You choose your room by pressing a button on a screen. I remember walking through one of these areas late at night. Everything was glowing. Couples were walking quietly, looking at their phones. I saw businessmen in suits, young women in fashionable clothes, and even tourists who looked a little lost. The buildings looked like regular hotels from far away, but up close you could tell what they were. It felt strange. Not dangerous. Just quiet. Secret. Hidden in plain sight. I passed by one hotel that had heart-shaped windows and soft music playing outside. A couple walked in together, not saying a word. 10 minutes later, another man walked in alone. That surprised me. But then I learned, some people rent these rooms not for sex but just for privacy. To take a nap, watch a movie, or be alone for a while. In a country where many people live with their parents or in tiny apartments, a love hotel can be a rare private space. But even in these places, the emotion is missing. Everything feels like a system. Pay, enter, leave. No talk, no connection. And that's the deeper issue. Japan isn't sexless because people don't have desires. It's sexless because many people are too afraid, too tired, or too unsure to connect with someone else. There's also a big difference between fantasy and real life. Adult content offers fantasy. It's easy, no risk, no rejection. Real life is much harder. It requires effort, communication, and facing feelings. For many, fantasy feels safer. Some people in Japan are trying to change this. There are counselors, writers, and YouTubers talking about love and sex more openly. But it's still slow. Most people keep their private lives very private. Even close friends may never know if someone is in a relationship or not. So, what do we learn from all this? That Japan's sex culture is not simple. It is not just about what you see. It asks about what people don to say. It's about quiet fear, silent pressure, and the heavy weight of expectations. From the outside, it might look like everything is open, but on the inside, many people feel lonely and closed off. In the end, Japan shows us something important, that having access to something does not mean people are using it. Real connection takes more than rooms and websites. It takes trust, time, and the courage to open up. And in a place where silence is the norm, that can be the hardest part of all. The consent code. Yes means maybe, silence means stop. In many countries, communication about relationships and intimacy is open and direct. People say what they feel, ask clear questions, and expect honest answers. But in Japan, things work very differently, especially when it comes to love, dating, and physical closeness. Here, people rarely say things directly, and when they do, the meaning can still be unclear. This creates a lot of confusion, especially for foreigners. One big reason behind this quiet style of communication is a Japanese concept called WA, which means harmony. In Japanese culture, keeping peace in relationships, whether at work, with friends, or with a partner, is very important. People try hard not to upset others. This means they avoid saying things that might cause discomfort, even if it's something small. Instead of saying no, they might say maybe. Instead of showing they're not interested, they just smile and change the subject. When it comes to romance, this quiet style becomes even more complicated. Many Japanese people feel shy or awkward talking about love or intimacy. They don't often express their feelings openly. They may use hints, body language, or long pauses to send a message. If you're used to clear signals, this can be really confusing. For example, in some cultures, if someone says yes, it means yes. But in Japan, yes can sometimes just mean, I don't want to say no to your face. And if someone stays silent, it doesn't mean they agree. It often means they are uncomfortable, but don't want to be rude. This is why the saying, silence means stop, is important in Japan. If someone goes quiet during a romantic moment, it's not a shy yes. It's a soft no. Many foreigners get this wrong, not because they are bad people, but because they don't understand the quiet signals. They might think someone is being shy, when in fact that person is trying to show they're not ready or not interested. And once you cross a line in Japan, people won't always explain or give you another chance. They may just cut you off completely. This can lead to hurt feelings and lost friendships, even if the mistake was unintentional. There are many stories of foreigners who misunderstood these signals. One guy shared how he went on a few dates with a Japanese woman who was always polite and friendly. She never said anything romantic, but she never said no to his invitations either. One night, he leaned in for a kiss. She pulled back and said nothing. He thought she was just shy, so he laughed and tried again. That was it. The next day, she blocked his number. He never heard from her again. He was shocked, but in her eyes he ignored her silent no. She didn't want to talk about it. She just ended all contact. That's how quickly things can go wrong if you don't understand the unspoken rules. Of course, not every story is serious. Some are just awkward and funny. One foreigner said he tried to impress his date by giving her a long speech about his feelings, thinking she would be touched. But instead of smiling, she looked super uncomfortable and quietly said, "You talk too much." She left early. Later, a friend explained that in Japan, big shows of emotion can feel strange or even fake. People value quiet, simple gestures, not long speeches. Another person shared how he brought flowers on a first date, thinking it was a sweet idea, but the girl didn't know what to do with them. She stood there holding the bouquet like it was a science project. She thanked him politely, but never called back. In Japan, that kind of gift can feel like too much too soon. It is not about being romantic. It is about not putting pressure on the other person. All of this shows that dating in Japan is not just about liking someone. It's about understanding how they feel without them having to say it. It's about being gentle, respectful, and, most importantly, patient. If someone goes quiet, don't push. If they don't text back right away, don't panic. These little signs carry big meaning. So, what's the lesson here? If you're dating in Japan, don't expect clear words or bold actions. You'll need to pay attention to tone, timing, and body language. And always remember, if something feels uncertain, it's better to pause than to push. Learning these quiet rules might feel hard at first, but once you understand them, you'll see a beauty in the way Japanese people handle relationships. It's soft, careful, and full of respect. You might not hear "I love you" often, but when someone shows care here, it usually means a lot. In the end, consent in Japan is not about bold yes or no. It's about comfort. It's about reading the room. It's about creating space for someone to feel safe, without having to say a word. And once you get that, you'll be much closer to understanding how love works in this quiet, thoughtful, and deeply respectful country. Loneliness in a crowd. Why life feels quietly isolated. Japan is one of the busiest and most crowded countries in the world. Cities like Tokyo are always full of people, rushing through train stations, walking down narrow streets, eating in small restaurants. At first, it feels exciting. There's always something happening and everything seems fast and organized. But after a while, something strange starts to happen. Even though you're surrounded by people, you start to feel alone. One of the first places you notice this is on the train. Japanese trains are almost always full, especially during rush hour. People stand shoulder to shoulder, packed tightly, but no one talks. Everyone is quiet. Most people are looking at their phones, reading, or just staring at the floor. You could be standing next to someone for 45 minutes and never make eye contact. No one is being rude. It's just how things are. Silence is the norm. This kind of silence is not just on trains. It's everywhere. In cafes, in shops, even on busy streets. People avoid making noise or drawing attention. They move with purpose, stay in their own space, and try not to disturb anyone around them. It creates a peaceful environment, but it can also make you feel invisible. There's also something deeply emotional about this quiet way of living. People don't often show their feelings in public. Smiling at strangers is rare. Starting conversations with people you don't know isn't common. And because of this, it's easy to feel cut off, like you're in a sea of people, but no one can see you. One thing that really surprises newcomers is seeing salarymen sleeping on the streets. These are office workers who finished a long day at work, drank with coworkers, and missed the last train home. Instead of going to a hotel, they sleep on benches or sidewalks, in their suits with their bags next to them. And what's more surprising, no one bothers them. No one laughs, steals from them, or tries to wake them up. People just walk around them and leave them alone. This shows two sides of Japan. On one hand, there's a strong sense of respect. People don't interfere in others' lives. They let you be. On the other hand, it also means there's less connection. If you're struggling, most people won't ask if you're okay. Not because they don't care, but because they believe it's not their place. They don't want to invade your space. I once heard the story of a girl from Japan who had been living alone in Tokyo for more than a year. She had a job, went to work, came home, cooked, and watched TV. One day she said, "I haven't hugged anyone in over a year." Not because she didn't want to, but because there was simply no one around her who did. That moment hit hard. In a place full of people, not being touched, not being heard, not being noticed, can make you feel deeply alone. Of course, not everyone in Japan feels this way. Some people love the quiet. They enjoy the peace and the personal space. They feel safe in the silence. And that's valid. For some, this emotional distance is soothing. You can go out, do your thing, and come home without dealing with drama or strangers. You don't have to explain yourself to anyone. You're free to be yourself, without pressure. But for others, the same silence becomes suffocating. It's like wearing an emotional mask every day. You smile politely, follow the rules, and never speak up about how you feel. You start to feel like a ghost, present but unseen. This feeling can be even stronger for foreigners. In your home country, you might be used to small talk, friendly neighbors, or random conversations at the coffee shop. In Japan, those small connections are rare. It takes time, and sometimes a lot of effort, to build close friendships here. And when you don't speak the language well, the isolation gets worse. The truth is, loneliness in Japan doesn't always look like sadness. People are still going to work, doing well in school, eating meals, and smiling in photos. But behind that calm life, many are quietly longing for connection. Some find it through hobbies, clubs, or online communities. Others keep it hidden, hoping things will change. So, is Japan a lonely place? The answer depends on the person. Some find peace in the quiet. Others feel lost in it. But what's certain is that you can feel alone even in a crowd. And Japan's way of living, polite, calm, and distant, often makes that feeling stronger. If you ever plan to live in Japan, it's good to prepare for this emotional side. Learn the language, find people with similar interests, and don't be afraid to reach out, even if it feels strange at first. Because in a place where everyone is quiet, the smallest hello can mean a lot. Mental health and overwork. The side effects of perfection. Japan is known for its safety, politeness, and high standards. From fast trains to clean streets, everything seems perfect on the surface. But behind this image of perfection, there are some serious problems that people don't always talk about, especially when it comes to mental health and overwork. One word that explains a big part of this issue is karoshi. It means death by overwork. This is not just a dramatic phrase, it's a real problem in Japan. Some people work so many hours, with so much stress and pressure that their health suffers badly. They get sick, collapse from exhaustion, or even die from heart attacks or strokes. Others suffer mentally, feeling hopeless, tired, and unable to keep going. But why does this happen? A big reason is the culture of perfection and duty. People in Japan are taught from a young age to give their best at all times. They don't want to let others down. At work, this often means staying late, taking on too many tasks, and never saying no. Even if their shift ends, many employees stay longer just to show loyalty to the company. They're afraid of being seen as lazy or weak. This pressure isn't just in offices, it's in schools too. Students study hard for exams, join clubs, go to cram schools after hours, and come home late. Everyone is expected to keep going, to stay polite, stay strong, and never complain. Because of this, many people hide their feelings. They smile, bow, and follow the rules, even when they're tired or sad inside. There's a strong habit of masking emotions, especially negative ones. Saying, "I am tired," or "I need help," can feel like a sign of failure. People don't want to bring shame to their family or workplace, so they keep it all inside. This leads to another big issue: the stigma around therapy. In some countries, going to therapy or talking to a counselor is normal, but in Japan, it's still seen as a private matter. Many people feel ashamed to say they are struggling. They worry others will see them as weak or broken. Because of this, many don't get the help they need. They suffer in silence, hoping the feeling will go away on its own. Let me share a story I once heard from a Japanese office worker. He said, "Every day, I bowed to everyone. I smiled, I answered emails, I did everything perfectly. But one day, after a small mistake, I sat in the bathroom and cried. I couldn't stop. I felt like I was drowning in pressure. I had never cried like that before." This man had never told anyone about his stress before that moment. To the outside world, he looked fine. But inside, he was breaking down. This story shows how extreme politeness can hide real pain. People in Japan care deeply about manners and respect. They say the right things, do their jobs well, and try to keep harmony. But this sometimes comes at a high cost, especially when they feel they can be honest about their feelings. There's also an interesting contrast in Japan between how advanced it is with technology and how slow it is with emotional openness. Japan has robots, high-speed trains, and smart cities. But when it comes to mental health and expressing emotions, things are still very traditional. Many companies don't have mental health support. Schools may not teach kids how to talk about stress or sadness. People are expected to deal with it quietly. This mix of modern life and old expectations makes it harder for people to cope. They are surrounded by busy cities, high-tech tools, and fast-paced life. But inside, they may feel lonely, tired, or lost. And they don't always have someone to talk to. Thankfully, things are starting to change. Younger people are becoming more open. There are now online support groups, YouTubers who talk about mental health, and some companies trying to help workers find balance. But change takes time, and the old habits are still strong. If you ever live or work in Japan, it's important to understand this hidden pressure. Behind the clean uniforms and polite bows, many people are carrying heavy emotional loads. And sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is simply ask, "Are you okay?" and really mean it. Mental health in Japan is a quiet topic, but it's real. And just like the trains that run on time, people try to keep their lives running smoothly. But no one can keep moving forever without rest. Japan teaches us that perfection looks nice, but what people really need is understanding, support, and space to be human. What Japan teaches you if you survive it. Living in Japan is not easy. It's not like being a tourist. When you visit for a short time, everything looks exciting. The food, the trains, the temples, the calm streets. But when you actually live there, day after day, you start to see a different side. You face quiet rules, deep expectations, and a way of life that doesn't always match your own. And that's when the real learning begins. Some people come to Japan and love it right away. Others struggle from the beginning. But one thing is clear. Japan will change you. It will either make you grow, or it will push you to give up and go home. There's no middle ground. You have to choose, adjust, or escape. The biggest thing Japan teaches you is awareness. You become more careful with your words, your actions, even your facial expressions. You start to notice how others move, how they speak softly, how they never make others uncomfortable. You learn to listen more and speak less. You stop expecting loud reactions and start paying attention to small signs. A pause, a smile, a nod. Japan teaches you to read the air, even when no one is saying anything. This can be hard at first. You might feel lost or even ignored. But slowly, you understand that this quiet way of living has meaning. People here respect space. They think before they speak. They help in silent ways. You begin to see the value in being humble, in holding back your ego, in waiting before jumping in. Japan also teaches you patience. Nothing moves fast when it comes to personal life. Making friends takes time. Earning trust takes longer. Dating is slow and careful. People need to feel safe with you before they open up. You can't force anything. If you're too direct or too loud, people pull away. But if you give them space, they slowly move closer. This process can feel lonely. It can feel like you're walking through fog with no guide, but it builds something important: strength. You learn how to be okay by yourself. You learn how to respect silence. You become more thoughtful, more kind, more mature. These are lessons that stay with you forever. Some foreigners never get this far. They get frustrated with the slow pace, the quiet culture, and the strict rules. They feel ignored, misunderstood, or left out. They try to fight the system, and the system pushes back. Many end up leaving, thinking Japan was too hard or too cold. But often, they missed the deeper point. What most foreigners never see, until it's too late, is that Japan doesn't open up easily. But when it does, it offers something very special: a deep connection, a quiet form of care, a peaceful way of living that values effort, respect, and self-control. But to reach that, you have to be willing to go through the tough part first. You'll have days when you feel invisible, days when you feel like nothing makes sense. But if you keep going, if you keep learning, Japan slowly becomes clearer. You start to understand not just the country, but yourself. You realize that you don't always need to be loud to be heard. You don't always need to rush to reach your goals. You don't always need to be right. Sometimes just being present, quiet, and respectful is enough. So, what does Japan teach you? If you survive it, it teaches you to slow down, to pay attention, to think before you act, to respect others even when you don't agree, to find peace in quiet moments. And most of all, it teaches you how to grow through difficulty. You arrive as one person, you leave as another. And if you're lucky, you leave better. The unspoken challenge. Could you do this? So now you've seen the truth. Life in Japan is not as simple or perfect as it looks from the outside. Yes, it's clean, safe, and organized. But when you live there, really live, you face challenges that many people never talk about. You've learned how some people manage to survive on just $600 a month. They live in tiny rooms, eat simple meals from convenience stores, ride bicycles to save money, and live a quiet, minimalist life. It's possible, but it's not easy. Every day comes with a choice: comfort or control, spending or surviving. You give up space, luxury, and sometimes even privacy, just to stay within budget. Then there's the emotional side. Dating in Japan is complicated. People are polite but distant. They rarely say what they feel, and relationships take time and quiet understanding. Ghosting is normal. Mixed signals are everywhere. You might think things are going well and then nothing. It's confusing, and it can really hurt if you don't know the unspoken rules. You also saw how sex is both everywhere and nowhere. Japan has a huge adult industry, but many young people don't date or have sex. The culture around love and physical connection is full of silence and shame. You can walk past a dozen love hotels but still find yourself alone, unsure how to even start a real relationship. It's not about lack of desire, it's about fear, pressure, and old habits. And what about mental health and loneliness? In a place filled with people, you can still feel completely alone. Everyone minds their own business. People don't often speak to strangers. Smiles are polite, but deep conversations are rare. It's easy to feel like you're part of the background, always present, but never truly seen. You thought Japan was a dream, but maybe it's not a dream. Maybe it's a test of how much you can adapt, a test of your patience, your understanding, and your strength. Can you handle the quiet? Can you accept that people won't always tell you what they think? Can you live in a space the size of your closet and still feel okay? This isn't about scaring you or saying Japan is bad. It's about showing the full picture, the beautiful and the difficult. It's about honesty, Because if you really want to live in Japan, you need to know what you're walking into. So now, ask yourself, would you thrive in this kind of life? Or would it break you? Would you enjoy the quiet mornings with rice and tea, the peaceful train rides and the clean streets? Or would the silence drive you crazy? Would you be able to live on a small budget, respect the rules, and slowly earn trust? Or would the slow pace and lack of directness leave you feeling lost? Some people come to Japan and fall in love with it. They grow, they change, and they find a new part of themselves. Others struggle, feel isolated, and leave early. Both are real, and both are okay. But the key is being prepared, not just with money or plan, but with the right mindset. Now it's your turn to think about it. Could you live in Japan, not just visit, but actually live there? Could you handle the dating games, the hidden feelings, the rules no one speaks out loud? Could you find peace in small spaces, in quiet streets, in people who rarely say what they feel? Drop a comment below and tell us, honestly, would you make it in Japan, or would it be too much? And if you've already been there or lived through it, share your story. What surprised you the most? What helped you stay? Or what made you leave? This is not just about Japan. It's about how we deal with silence, change, and being far from everything familiar. So, could you do this?